iron thunder in a quiet heart, a storm that learned to move without sound, an avalanche that chose its own mountain, a fire that refused to flicker even when the room ran out of air. You know that feeling, the moment something ancient and relentless wakes up inside you and decides enough is enough. You stop asking for permission, you stop waiting for signs, you stop negotiating with your own hesitation, you pick up the weight as if it insulted your blood, and you drag it up the hill until the ground gives and the horizon splits. That is what it looks like when a person becomes a verdict. That is what it sounds like when a life chooses its final form. They will call it obsession. They will call it madness. They will call it unfair. But you know the truth. You went so hard the world's excuses fell apart in their hands. You went so hard the camera caught the moment their confidence collapsed into pleading. You went so hard the distance between who you were and who you are now became a canyon, and still you kept going. If this message is already stirring something in you, pause and breathe with me for a second, because I need you here for the long haul. If you felt even an ember catch, subscribe right now, like this, so the signal doesn't get buried, and leave a comment telling me the single fight you refuse to lose. Do it because you are building a ritual of return, a place to come back when the world gets loud and your purpose needs a sharpened edge. Do it because this isn't content for passing time. It's a contract with your future self, and you sign it with action. Now, listen closely. There comes a day when the noise around you finally reveals itself as fear in disguise. Voices telling you to slow down for your own good. Faces pretending they care about your health, when what they really want is your surrender. They stare at your progress like it's a betrayal, like you stole something that was never meant to be yours. They don't understand that it was never given. It was taken. It was mine from midnight. It was paid for with loneliness, early mornings, quiet meals, and skipped parties. You didn't arrive on a lucky wind. You showed up when no one else did, clear-eyed and disciplined, when only your breath could hear you. You got tired, then respectful of that tiredness, then stronger than it. And when the chance came, you didn't just step through the door. You removed the hinges so the door would remember your name. People will speak about this season like it was sudden, like you exploded out of nowhere. But you know better. You know the little ledger kept in your chest. Each line of debt you repaid with sweat. You know how long the ceiling was just a ceiling, blank and silent, while you planned under it. You know the weight of repetition, the holy monotony of daily improvements, so small they were invisible to everyone, except you. They didn't see the extra sets. They didn't see the drafts in the trash. They didn't see you walking past distractions with steady eyes. That's why when the footage starts rolling and the room shifts, it looks like a miracle. It looks like destiny picking favorites. But destiny is allergic to excuses and attracted to devotion. Destiny arrives for whoever stays the latest and leaves the earliest. Destiny is not a visitor. Destiny is your reflection when you have finally run out of lies. There is a point in every climb where the air thins and the mind starts telling stories to protect you. Stories about how stopping is wise and slowing is strategic and resting is deserved. And sometimes that is true. Sometimes rest is fuel. But you know the difference between refueling and retreat. You know the exact timbre of your own hesitation. You can recognize when your mind is trying to tuck you back into mediocrity like a worried parent. This is where you speak to yourself with clarity. This is where you lean forward, not because it's easy, but because the alternative is living with the sound of almost echoing inside your ribs for the rest of your life. They said you were too intense. They said you were too focused. They said you cared too much. That's their way of confessing they care too little. Intensity is the language progress understands. Focus is how you survive every ambush of distraction. And caring too much is how you build anything that lasts longer than a season. When they filmed you, when the lights came up and the pressure settled on the room like a second atmosphere, you didn't flinch. You didn't fill the silence with apologies. You didn't pick smaller goals just to make them comfortable. You picked the truth. You picked the heaviest version of yourself, and you carried it as if it were light. That's when the begging started. Not because you were cruel, but because you were undeniable. Not because you wanted to embarrass anyone, but because you finally refused to apologize for the size of your gift. They're literally praying you stop, whispering that maybe you should tone it down, make yourself less precise, less powerful, less deliberate, so everyone can breathe again. But you learn to watch those prayers carefully. Some prayers are masks for fear. Some prayers are charms against change. Some prayers are the last defenses of a structure that crumbles the moment one person proves there was always another way. If you stop now, you validate the limits they handed you. If you keep going, you rewrite the map. You weren't called to be a tour guide for comfortable roads. You were called to swing the machete through an unmarked path and leave a trail anyone brave enough can follow. There is mercy in your strength. Do not mistake that. Your power is not a weapon pointed at strangers. It is a light that burns away the fog. It is a standard that forces everything around it to stand up straighter. You do not owe them your shrinking. You owe them your example. You owe the younger version of yourself the proof that discipline works. You owe the future the blueprint of how to build a life that refuses to bend at the first sign of resistance. So you keep moving. You keep choosing the work over the noise, the truth over the applause, the craft over the clout. You keep your head down in the storm and your eyes up on the line no one else can see. Understand the cost and pay it with dignity. Loss of comfort, loss of instant approval, loss of shallow companionship that dissolves when you begin to rise. These are the taxes of transformation. You were never meant to remain where you started. You were crafted to endure the heat that forges steel and the pressure that births diamonds. Do not ask the kiln to lower its temperature. Learn to become fireproof. Do not ask the mountain to shrink. Learn to grow stronger legs. Do not ask the night to end early. Learn to move in the dark without fear, because the dark can be a teacher when you stop arguing with it. Remember the title they'll whisper behind closed doors when your name is mentioned. You went so hard, they started begging on camera. They'll say it like an accusation, as if going hard is a crime, as if excellence is disrespectful, as if mastery is unfair. But buried inside that sentence is the most honest confession they will ever make. You changed the pace of the room. You pressed on the throttle of reality until it had to either catch up or collapse. You walked into a place where pretense was fashionable and made honesty fashionable instead. You did not humiliate anyone. You simply refused to pretend that soft effort should get hard results. Carry this rule forward. Don't perform your work, inhabit it. Don't posture, practice. Don't display, develop. When you inhabit your work, you become the sort of person whose very presence changes outcomes. Meetings tilt in your direction because your preparation weighs more than their opinions. Projects settle into your hands because reliability has ascent and you wear it. Momentum lives with the loyal. Keep your promises to yourself the way you would keep a life and death promise to someone you love. Because in the end, that is what this is, a rescue mission. You are rescuing the person you said you would become from the quicksand of excuses you used to live in. Every time doubt rises, answer it with evidence. Not arguments, evidence. Point to the miles already run. Point to the pages already written. Point to the revenue, the reps, the reminders on your calendar, the calls returned, the sprints finished, the early alarms honored, the late temptations declined. Evidence is the language of the future. Evidence is how you teach your nervous system to trust you. Evidence is how you rewire the story so it stops saying maybe and starts saying again. You are not an accident. You are not a rumor. You are a record of kept promises. You will be misunderstood, and that is the price. People judge what they cannot locate within themselves. When they call your focus cold, they mean disciplined. When they call your standards unreasonable, they mean uncommon. When they call your pace exhausting, they mean unfamiliar. Smile at the translation. You are not here to be legible to everyone. You are here to be faithful to the whisper that woke you. You are here to be the answer to the question your younger self asked in the dark. Is it possible to become the person I can almost see when I close my eyes? Yes, but only if you are willing to accept the ache that comes with building something worth kneeling for. And in that awe, let them finally understand that greatness is never given. It is carved from bone and forged in solitude. It is chosen. It is protected. It is fought for every hour of every day, and you chose it, and you fought for it, and you earned it. And that is why you won so hard that they could not handle the outcome, because the outcome was a mirror, and mirrors are merciless to illusions. In the glare of your results, their stories had nowhere to stand. In the pulse of your discipline, their shortcuts lost their magic. In the sheer steadiness of your stride, their predictions fell silent. They asked you to slow because your speed made the clock tell the truth. They begged you to soften because your edge made their excuses look fragile. They wanted you to dim because your light kept revealing the work they avoided. But you did not dim. You steadied. You did not slow. You refined. You did not apologize. You articulated exactly what it costs to breathe at the altitude you now call home. And then you kept climbing. Do not fear the camera. Let it record the tremor in their voices and the steadiness in yours. Let it archive the moment when their certainty cracked. Let it witness not a humiliation, but a revelation. That excellence, when sustained without theatrics, eventually makes the loudest room quiet. The footage will outlive the gossip. The record will outlast the rumor. When history asks for proof, you will have it, not in opinions, but in outcomes. Keep receipts, not grudges. Keep building, not bragging. Keep returning to the workbench while they refresh their feeds. Brick by brick, law by law, day by day, and then one day people will call you fortunate when what they really mean is faithful. You must learn to love the stretch. You must make peace with being slightly beyond your current limits, always reaching just enough to stay honest. Comfort is kind, but it cannot crown you. Strain is stern, but it will shape you into someone you respect. Let your mornings belong to the mission. Let your evenings review the footage of your own effort, not to punish, but to refine. Speak to yourself with hard kindness, the kind that refuses to lie, but never withdraws love. Become your own commander and your own sanctuary. Make your discipline warm and your standards immovable. A furnace and a fortress in one. Protect your circle with vigilance. Not everyone who claps wants your success. Not everyone who critiques wants your correction. Measure people by the weight they can carry with you, not by the volume of their opinions. Share your blueprints with those who respect the engineering of a soul, not with those who think a life is assembled from applause. Find the ones who are also awake at merciless hours, who also speak the dialect of sweat, who also believe that excellence is sacred. Build a table with them. Let iron sharpen iron until sparks light the room and work becomes worship. Do not confuse pace with purpose. Speed without direction is the loudest way to get lost. Your goal is not to move quickly. Your goal is to move correctly, repeatedly, until the path itself begins to remember your footfall. When setbacks arrive, as they will, greet them like trainers, not thieves. Ask what they are here to strengthen. Ask what they refuse to let you carry into the next level. Failure is a scalpel carving away the soft parts that cannot survive the altitude you're climbing toward. Allow it to cut what must be cut. Guard what must be guarded. Then keep going. The day will come when the results become undeniable even to you, not just to them. When your reflection surprises you in the best way, not because you were gifted, but because you finally became aligned. You will recognize your own eyes, sharper now. quieter now, carrying less fear and more focus. You will walk into rooms and feel their tempo change. You will be asked for maps by people who once told you there was nowhere to go. Offer them wisdom if they are sincere. Offer them silence if they are not. Keep your peace expensive. Keep your integrity priceless. Keep your word heavier than any promise around you. Let the record show that you did not ask to win. You asked to become worthy of winning, and that made all the difference. You asked for the strength to carry the crown, not just to touch it. You asked for the patience to build a foundation deep enough to hold the weight of everything you were destined to place on top. The win was inevitable because the preparation was non-negotiable. By the time the world noticed, the work was already paid for. That is why their pleas sounded strange to your ears. They were begging you to stop a process that had already been completed 1,000 mornings ago. When the dust finally settles and the room breathes again, do not let bitterness harden your mouth. Be kind without shrinking. Be generous without surrendering your edge. Remember how many times you almost quit, and honor the ones who pulled you back from the cliff, your future self, your purpose. Perhaps a single voice that believed before the proof. Send gratitude upstream. Then, return to the craft. Remember, the crown does not hold itself in place. It requires a spine. It requires a daily willingness to be a pillar, while others are content to be spectators. Wear the weight like an oath. You went so hard because you stopped treating your life like a rehearsal. You saw the curtain move and realized it was your turn, so you took it, not with noise, but with accuracy, not with theatrics, but with 10,000 quiet repetitions that no one clapped for. That is the secret those cameras captured, the reason their composure cracked into prayers. They wanted a show. You gave them evidence. They wanted a moment. You gave them momentum. They wanted you to be a story. You became a standard. This is your conclusion and your commandment. Do not slow for the comfort of watchers. Do not shrink for the eyesight of doubters. Do not apologize for the discipline that saved your life. If they are praying you stop, let them learn new prayers. Prayers for courage, prayers for commitment, prayers to meet you on the road rather than watching from the porch. Refuse to hide your light in a world that trips in daylight. Refuse to dilute your focus in a market that sells distraction as a lifestyle. Refuse to negotiate with the part of you that still thinks smallness is safe. The only safety left is in becoming everything you were built to be. And when the next camera turns on, when the mic picks up the hum of your heartbeat, step forward with the same serene ferocity that brought you here. Let your presence be a verdict again. Let your work be a map again. Let your pace be a prophecy again. If they beg, bless them with an example. If they doubt, answer with outcomes. If they wait for you to fall, rise politely and repeatedly until waiting becomes exhausting for them and ordinary for you. You are not here to perform miracles. You are here to prove that discipline, aligned with purpose, looks like one. Walk out now, with your shoulders squared and your eyes level. The mountain is listening. The clock is listening. Your younger self is listening. And the future is taking notes. Go so hard that the air itself adjusts. Go so hard that the horizon moves toward you in respect. Go so hard that those who love truth feel braver just standing near you. And if anyone still prays you stop, let the answer be this life, built brick by brick, law by law, hour by hour, a cathedral of proof they can visit whenever they are ready to become more than observers. The verdict is already written across your stride. You went so hard, they started begging on camera. Smile, breathe, and continue. The work is your crown, and you are just getting started. There is a hush that follows undeniable effort, a stillness that comes when the world realizes it cannot argue with outcomes anymore. And in that stillness, you learn something rare. You learn that you do not need louder applause. You need deeper roots. You do not need kinder odds. You need clearer aim. You do not need easier roads. You need stronger legs. This is the mathematics of ascent, and you have been solving it line by line, night after night. While they were bargaining with discomfort, you were building a friendship with it. While they were waiting for confidence, you were manufacturing it, repetition by repetition, until the mirror stopped lying and started reporting. You did not come this far to curate a softer version of yourself. For their comfort, you came to become the precise instrument your purpose requires. And that precision has a cost. It asks you to choose in private what you promise in public. It asks you to complete the set when no one remembers to count it. Asks you to be your own witness. When the room is empty and your doubt is loud, stand there anyway, breathe anyway, finish anyway, because that is how a person becomes a force. And that is why one day cameras point at you and capture not a performance, but a proof. What they called extreme, you called necessary. What they called obsessive, you called devoted. What they called unfair, you called earned. And the difference between those words is the difference between a spectator and a builder. Your work is not a spectacle, it is an oath. So keep renewing it in small, faithful payments. Early mornings that make the world quieter, late evenings that make your focus sharper, meals that are fuel, not distraction, conversations that are rare and real and ruthless in their honesty with your future, 1,000 choices that make one life worthy of its weight. There will be seasons where the victories are so quiet, only your pulse hears them. The scale barely moves, the numbers barely budge, the needle seems welded in place. Do not be fooled. The foundation is thickening, the spine is hardening, the habit is deepening, the patience is learning to breathe underwater. This is the invisible triumph that prepares the visible one. This is the unfilmed chapter in which you built the strength to pick up the filmed crown and not shatter under it. Trust. These plain days polish them, hold them close, because when the flood arrives, it will carry you only as far as your anchor can hold. Remember the promises you made to the younger version of you. You said you would be the one who showed up. You said you would be the one who stayed when others drifted. You said you would be the one who turned pain into pattern, discipline into direction, hunger into harvest. That vow is still fresh. Do not let it grow dusty. Renew it with motion, with order, with the simple, honorable act of starting on time and finishing with care, because in the end, excellence is just kindness to your future, measured in hours and multiplied by courage. They will continue to misunderstand the sound of your footsteps. They will hear thunder where there is only rhythm. They will see threat where there is only standard. They will call for you to slow because their pace is the only proof they have ever known, and your stride proves a different story. But you are not here to negotiate with comfort. You are here to negotiate with destiny. And destiny is a strict partner. It demands clarity or it leaves the room. Keep speaking in the grammar of action. Keep answering in the dialect of results. Keep composing your days like a score that swells without noise and lands without apology. Guard your mind with the same reverence a warrior guards a map, because your map is internal, a latticework of beliefs that decides where your feet can go. If you let old doubts redraw the borders, your future shrinks to fit your fear. Do not let that happen. Interrogate every thought that asks you to live smaller. Challenge every feeling that suggests you should abandon your edge. Replace timid formulas with truthful ones. Effort compounds, grit is transferable. Character has momentum when you forget. Breathe and begin again. Beginning is not a retreat, it is a strategy. You have already seen the proof of this law when you kept going after a day that tried to fold you. The next day did not recognize your weakness. It only recognized your motion, and the world respects motion more than noise. Keep the river moving, even if it is narrow, on some mornings, even if it is shallow on some evenings. Moving water carves stone, the way a faithful pattern carves a future. When the moment arrives to sprint, you will not need a pep talk. Your tendons will remember that they were trained for velocity by 1,000 quiet walks that never stopped. Let your standards be a door that only purpose can open. Say no to the easy spark that burns hot and dies. Say yes to the slow ember that stays warm and faithful in storms. Give your attention to the tasks that compound mastery, not the ones that rent applause. Give your time to the people who love your discipline, not the ones who resent your distance. Let them call it intense, let them label it severe. Your life understands the language. Sometimes intensity is kindness to the mission. Sometimes severity is loyalty to the truth. And in that all, let them finally understand that greatness is never given. It is carved from bone and forged in solitude. It is chosen. It is protected. It is fought for every hour of every day. And you chose it, and you fought for it, and you earned it. And that is why you won so hard that they could not handle the outcome. And that is why their words turned into whispers, and their whispers turned into pleas, because outcomes like yours are not negotiable. They are signatures etched into time, and when time reads your name, it nods, not because you are favored, but because you are faithful. Do not trade this clarity for the cheap warmth of approval. Approval cools, approval drifts, excellence holds. Keep your rituals sharp, the way a blade is kept sharp, not for show, but for duty. Make your mornings an altar for the work. Make your evenings an audit for the truth. Track what matters, release what does not. Refine the method, then trust the method. When your feelings fluctuate, feelings are weather, the method is climate. If you build the climate long enough, the weather learns respect. There will be crossroads where the path of comfort is crowded and bright and loud, and the path of craft is narrow and still choose the narrow and still not, because you are allergic to joy, but because you understand joy is far stronger when earned through integrity. Choose the narrow and still, because that path knows your name and expects your best. Choose the narrow and still, because the crown you carry prefers quiet rooms and heavy work, and you have learned to love both. If you stumble, do not decorate the ground with explanations. Stand up without theatrics. Breathe. Correct. Continue. The world will keep its commentary. You will keep your covenant. A stumble is not a summation. It is a signal, an instruction to reinforce the weak, place to add structure, where emotion once lived, to add order, where impulse once shouted. Every fall contains a map of the next ascent, if you read it with humility and move with precision. Let this be the way you end and begin in the same heartbeat. Finish a chapter with gratitude. Begin the next with courage. Do not linger where you are no longer learning. Do not sprint where you have not yet listened. Calibrate your effort to the truth, not to the crowd. Align your calendar with your calling, not with their convenience. Train the unseen parts of you, conscience, humility, patience, and you will find that the seen parts, power, speed, presence, become inevitable reflections of the invisible architecture. When the next test arrives, it will not introduce itself with trumpets. It will wear the face of a mundane morning, the disguise of an ordinary task. Treat it like a throne. Anyway, because in your world, excellence does not wait for a stage. It builds one honor. the small commitments, especially when no one is keeping score. Your future is keeping score, and it is generous with interest to those who pay on time. Hold your peace like a shield, and your word like a sword. A shield, so you do not waste energy on noise. A sword, so you can cut through confusion when the world forgets its lines and stumbles into your lane. Keep your head unbothered, your breath, even your stride. Smooth people will mistake your calm for certainty. It is not certainty. It is preparation, wearing silence, and that is enough. When you pass the places that tried to keep you, fold your hands and offer a quiet thank you, not for the doubt, but for the data they gave you. Data about your thresholds, your triggers, your strengths, your sacred non-negotiables. Harvest the lesson. Leave the bitterness. The lesson travels. The bitterness anchors you to a chapter you already outgrew. Carry lightness into the next climb. Lightness is not softness. It is freedom from what no longer strengthens you. If they are still watching, if they are still hoping your pace will slow, let them watch a little longer. The show they came for is not a collapse, it is a construction. And constructions take time. The cameras can keep rolling. The footage will reveal the same truth again and again. That discipline, given enough days, becomes a form of quiet genius. That consistency, given enough seasons, becomes a kind of gravity, pulling opportunity toward you. That integrity, given enough choices, becomes a crown that does not slip. Now breathe, stand tall, and close this moment with the exact quiet power that opened it. Remember the title and let it be a milestone, not a mirror. You went so hard, they started begging on camera. That is not the end of your story. It is a paragraph in a longer proof, because the win is not a peak. It is a platform, a place from which you launch into the next fidelity, the next refinement, the next vow, to keep with yourself. Turn away from the noise, turn toward the work, and step forward with the calm certainty of someone who knows what happens when effort and eternity shake hands. This is your long conclusion, and it is simple. You do not owe the world a softer version of your destiny. You owe your destiny a stronger version of you. Rise tomorrow and prove again what you proved today. That greatness is a decision renewed, that standards are a sanctuary kept, that humility and hunger can share the same chest without conflict. Keep your methods clean, your motives clear, your movements consistent, and when the camera finds you again, let it record the same lesson. Excellence is not an event, it is a lineage, and you are its newest ancestor. Walk out now, steady as a verdict, quiet as a storm, before rain, present as a sunrise that needs no permission. Leave this room with the knowledge that your pace is not an accident, your edge is not a phase, your results are not a trick. They are the natural consequence of a life that chose purpose over comfort and kept choosing. And if somewhere out there someone is still praying, you stop. Let your answer be motion, let your proof be peace, and let your legacy be the road you left behind for anyone brave enough to follow.